This isn't a story. It's a challenge. We know the name Genghis Khan, but do we know what he really left behind? Today, I'm not here to praise him. I'm here to ask few questions that history has tried to forget. At the end, you decide, was he a visionary or a monster with a crown? Was Genghis Khan a liberator or the original war criminal? He built law and order by breaking every rule of humanity. When we talk about Genghis Khan, we hear two stories. One, told by empires and military strategists, paints him as a genius, a unifier, a man ahead of his time. The other side, told in whispers if at all, says he was the most efficient killer in human history. So which is true? Maybe both. Maybe neither. The civilizer. Let's be fair. Genghis Khan did bring something to the world that didn't exist before. A written law code that applied to everyone, not just the elite. Religious tolerance across a vast empire. A communication network, the YAM system that inspired modern postal systems. He even banned the kidnapping and selling of women, something his own wife once suffered. Sounds progressive, doesn't it? But here's the part most people forget. Those laws. They only applied after you submitted. Refused to surrender and your entire city could be wiped from the earth. The war criminal. The city of Nishapur was no battlefield. It was a marketplace, a center of learning, a home. Until Genghis Khan's son-in-law died during the siege. In revenge, Khan ordered every person in the city, men, women, children too, be executed. Estimates range from 100,000 to over 1 million. So many that his soldiers couldn't keep count. They piled the skulls into pyramids instead. Another city, Urgench, held out longer, but eventually they surrendered. And for that mercy, they were rewarded with one of the bloodiest massacres in human history. Kill. Until your arms are too tired, the Khan ordered. Thousands of corpses were thrown into the Amu Darya River. The water ran red for days. So, was he different from Hitler or Stalin? Some say yes. They argue, you can't judge a 13th century warlord by modern morality. And maybe that's true. But even by the standards of his time, Genghis Khan stood out for the scale and coldness of his destruction. Where other conquerors sought wealth or religion, he wanted obliteration, not just of people, but of memory. Entire cities disappeared, names erased, cultures vaporized. The paradox here's where it gets messy. The same man who killed indiscriminately also welcomed defeated scholars and artisans into his empire. He spared scientists, doctors, scribes, and made them part of his administration. He respected intelligence as long as it served him. So ask yourself, if someone burns your house, kills your father, but pays your cousin to become a judge in his empire, was he building a better world, or just using people as tools? Modern comparisons in the 20th century, war criminals were tried in courts for the very things Khan did regularly. Targeting civilians, collective punishment, forced deportations, destruction of cultural heritage. But unlike those modern dictators, Genghis Khan left no video, no voice recording, no evidence of regret. All we have is the aftermath, and history written mostly by his descendants calls him great. Great at what? That's the question. I'm not saying he wasn't brilliant. I'm not saying he wasn't effective. I'm just saying this. If he were alive today, and we saw his face on TV, standing on top of a mountain of skulls, would we still call him a civilizer? Or would we call him what he likely was? The most charismatic mass murderer the world ever loved. I've said what I think, now it's your turn. Was Genghis Khan a genius leader who shaped the world, or a destroyer whose success we excuse because it's far in the past? Leave a comment. I want to know how you see it. What if his greatest legacy was genetic, not moral? He conquered with armies but ruled with bloodlines. Genghis Khan died nearly 800 years ago. And yet, he may still live on inside your body. That's not poetry, that's genetics. A 2003 study found something disturbing. About 1 in every 200 men alive today carries a Y chromosome linked to a single man who lived in the Mongolian Empire around 1200 AD. The math, that's nearly 16 million men, all potentially descended from one man. Genghis Khan, the gene that conquered. The story goes like this. Genghis Khan had many wives, many concubines, many sons, and those sons had even more wives, more concubines, more sons. As the empire grew, so did the number of women available to the ruling elite. In fact, access to women became a currency of power. Captured noblewomen, widows of slain enemies, daughters of surrendering rulers, many were gifted to the Khan and his bloodline. The war ended, the marriages began. So this raises a chilling thought. Maybe his empire was never about territory. Maybe it was about immortality through reproduction, power passed through blood. Unlike many ancient rulers, Genghis Khan didn't just want his sons to inherit power. He wanted his DNA to define the future. He divided his empire among them, created royal marriage alliances across continents. Even in China, Persia, and parts of Europe, his descendants shaped dynasties. This wasn't legacy building. This was biological colonization. What if the most lasting part of Genghis Khan wasn't his laws or his armies, but the idea that domination should be passed on through the bloodstream? No moral code, just reproduction. Let's compare. Philosophers like Confucius left teachings. Religious leaders like the Buddha left scriptures. Revolutionaries like Marx left ideologies. But what did Genghis Khan leave? Blood, nothing else lasted. His laws faded, his empire split, his grave was never found, but his genes survived. And not just survived, thrived, because he treated reproduction like warfare. Planned, aggressive, and strategic. Women's spoils. That's impossible to talk about this without facing a horrifying truth. The empire's sexual conquest was not consensual. Many of the women who bore his children were taken, not chosen, in Mongol culture. Captives were often made wives. But let's be clear, wife didn't mean equal partner. It meant obedience. It meant political leverage. It meant breeding. Can we call that legacy or trauma on a civilizational scale? We remember conquerors for their victories. But should we remember them for their victims' children? Genghis Khan changed the world map, yes, but he also changed the human genome, not through wisdom, not through philosophy, but through volume. What does it say about history? When the most enduring empire is found in our blood, not our books. Is legacy about what you build or what you leave behind in people's bodies? Was Genghis Khan brilliant, or just the most prolific breeder in human history? Drop a comment. Do you admire what he accomplished, or fear that our genes still carry the violence of his era? Why did Genghis Khan burn cities that had already surrendered? Sometimes, surrender wasn't enough. You had to disappear. Surrender was supposed to save you. In most wars, there's an unwritten rule: if you surrender, you live, you lay down your arms, you open your gates, you pay tribute, and in return, you're spared. Genghis Khan broke that rule again and again. Nishapur, the massacre of mercy. It was a Persian city known for scholars, poets, and artisans. When the Mongols attacked, the defenders eventually gave in, they surrendered. But when Genghis Khan's son-in-law was killed during the siege, he ordered the city to be erased, not punished. Erased, estimates claim, up to 1.7 million. People were executed, though exact numbers vary wildly. Even conservative historians acknowledge one of the worst single atrocities in human history. Men, women, children, even dogs and cats, according to some accounts. Why? Because they killed someone he loved. One death, repaid with a city, Urgench. The city that melted now, let's talk about Urgench. This was no small outpost. It was one of the richest cities in Central Asia, and it surrendered. But the Mongols struggled to take it intact, so they destroyed it instead. They diverted the Amu Darya River to flood it. They butchered so many people that soldiers reportedly grew tired and switched shifts, like workers on a factory line of death. Estimates suggest hundreds of thousands were killed again after surrender. So why burn what you already own? It seems irrational, doesn't it? Why destroy cities that are already yours? Why kill tax-paying citizens, skilled workers, and future soldiers? Here's one theory. Fear is stronger than loyalty. If people think they'll live after surrendering, they may fight harder. But if they believe resistance equals extinction, they may submit without a fight. Genghis Khan didn't just want control. He wanted submission before the battle even began. He wasn't fighting people. He was fighting possibility. What scares me most isn't that he destroyed cities, it's that he destroyed them on purpose. To make a point, to send a message, to weaponize memory. This is what happens when you challenge me. Not just to the city he burned, but to the next one, and the one after that. He used history as a threat. Should leaders be judged by their intentions or their results? Is tactical terror ever justified? If you were a ruler, would you destroy something beautiful just to teach obedience? Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Was Genghis Khan calculating or just cruel? Did Genghis Khan kill more friends than enemies? To build an empire, he first had to bury trust. Brotherhood meant nothing. In Mongol culture, there was a sacred word, Anda. It meant more than friend. It meant blood brother, soul twin. A bond forged stronger than family. Genghis Khan had an Anda too. His name was Jamuka. They grew up together, rode horses together, dreamed of unity together, and then Genghis had him executed, not in secret, not in anger, but ritually and publicly, because the empire wasn't big enough for two brothers. The betrayals weren't accidental. People often say power changes you, but what if Genghis Khan never believed in loyalty to begin with? Let's look at the record. He killed Bektar, his own half-brother, over food. He abandoned former allies the moment they became inconvenient. He married into tribes and later destroyed those same tribes. He turned meritocracy into manipulation, elevating people, then executing them to keep others afraid. Every alliance was temporary. Every bond was expendable. His real loyalty? Control. The revolving door of power. As the Mongol Empire expanded, Genghis Khan rewarded loyalty with power. But power? That's addictive, dangerous, unpredictable. So what did he do? He killed generals who became too popular. He replaced governors who grew beloved. He erased anyone who became irreplaceable. Even among his own sons, he played them against each other to avoid being overthrown. It wasn't empire building. There was a chess game with real blood. People remember his conquests, but I remember his pattern. He didn't just conquer cities, he conquered trust. He taught everyone from allies to enemies that nothing was sacred, not friendship, not blood, not vows. You were useful until you weren't. That's not leadership. That's emotional warfare, and it's terrifyingly effective. Can greatness exist without trust? Is betrayal always evil or just necessary at the top? Would you rather follow a loyal fool or a brilliant traitor? Let me know in the comments, because history doesn't always reward the kind. Sometimes it crowns the coldest. Was Genghis Khan a genius? Or just lucky with horses and fear? We say strategy, but maybe it was just perfect timing and terror. The genius narrative historians love calling Genghis Khan a military genius. And sure, on paper he checks the boxes. He unified the Mongol tribes. He invented advanced scouting and communication systems. He created decentralized warfare before modern armies even dreamed of it. He adapted fast, learned faster, and struck hardest when least expected. But here's the question that no one likes to ask. Was he brilliant or just born into the perfect storm? The horse advantage. Let's talk logistics. The Mongols didn't ride horses, they lived on them. Each warrior had 5 to 7 horses for rotation. They could travel 100 miles a day. While European or Persian armies moved 20 to 30, they didn't need long supply chains. They drank mare's milk, ate dried meat, and even used horse blood for protein. That's not strategy. That's biology and culture. Khan didn't invent horses. He just used them better than anyone else. Fear was his greatest weapon. The Mongol army was small, often outnumbered, but they always won. Why? Reputation. The legend of what the Mongols might do made cities surrender before they arrived. Genghis Khan encouraged rumors of unspeakable brutality. He let survivors flee with horror stories. He planted fear as propaganda. Terror wasn't a side effect, it was the core strategy. Psychological warfare. He faked retreat to lure enemies into ambush. He spared engineers from every city to build siege weapons for the next one. He let traitors live, then used them to betray others. Smart, yes, but revolutionary. Or just the most efficient plagiarist of old ideas. I think Genghis Khan was less of a chess master and more of a poker player. He bluffed, he gambled, and he knew when to go all in. But take away the horses, the steppe, the fractured tribes, would he still rise? Or was he simply the right kind of monster at the right moment in history? Is greatness always about intelligence? Or can timing and terror rewrite the rules? Do you think history made Genghis Khan great, or did he make history afraid of him? Leave your thoughts. Because sometimes, genius isn't brains, it's just blood and speed.